Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, one and all. Welcome to the Astropub. Welcome to office hours. Let's get to the office, shall we? Welcome, one and all, to office hours. This is a Star Citizen stream where we do questions and answers. Just kind of a hangout. I'll do a little bit of a discussion, like a little bit of a kind of topic discussion on lore. Then we'll talk a little bit about, today we'll be talking about updates as well. So there's a lot of updates that came out. But generally speaking, it's kind of what we're doing. How y'all doing? Hey, Benjamin. Commander Thud.
2 words.
Thud.
Distress bacon.
Ben, call me Mike. Renovate. How's it going, Renovate? Did I get back to you, Renovate? I thought I did. I don't remember if I did or not. The answer is, if not, the answer is yes. I'm doing okay, Starkiller. How are you doing? Hey, Snowfox. About coming on to the captain's table? Yeah, I remember you sending me a message being like, hey, I don't know if it was an email or if it was a message on Discord. It's been like, hey, do you mind if I come on Captain's Table? I'm bad about that sometimes because I'm just like, I see it, I'm like, yes, and then I just don't type it out. I go in my brain, yes. But yeah. So yeah, you're good. How you doing? Just take another night off of a 54-hour work week? Woof. Woof. I can imagine that. I imagine it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I myself am taking some breaks because I have to get to work tomorrow. So I'll have to double check on that. Hanging out after dinner. Yeah, you get a load of ISC today? I did. Thank you, Jared, for that call out for the Argo cargo. Your faith in our cause will be remembered. When we turn the entire UEE into one giant cult to the Argo, to the Argo cargo. Cargo for the cargo god. Yep, that's going to be coming up soon. Hopefully this week, I think, or maybe next week, is the first round of voting. So I will depend on all of you to fight the good fight, push our baby boy all the way to the finals, and win through to clear victory. And it makes me even more hardened about the Argo cargo that it just pisses some people off so much. There are some people who are so angry about the Argo cargo, like, just absolutely livid that's even considered. It's like, motherfucker, do you have anything on your ship? You do? Your ship is made of things? Well, you got to thank an Argo cargo for that. Show some motherfucking respect. Put some respect on the fucking name. Okay? Put some respect on the fucking name. With that, let's get to the first topic. If you have any questions, go and ask them in chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. All right. Did you see my I don't know if I got it right. Oh, I haven't sent them out yet, Mike. I'll send them out today. I keep meaning to do so, but I keep being so. It I will. You will get them after the stream today because it should be ending earlier. And yeah, so we're not going to be doing any gameplay streams today. We're just going to be doing the office hours. We'll be doing gameplay streams and group streams possibly Saturday if it's still running on Saturday. Or yeah, Saturday and Sunday. Chats for the Saber Raven. Yeah. You looking forward to the new FPS weapons? I am. Those look cool. I'm just looking for some of those weapons to be not lethal. So we'll see. I finally caught you live. Seraph Industries fully supports your campaign for Gargo Cargo. To the moon, boys! To the moon! And then snag that moon and throw it in the back of an Argo Cargo and bring it down to us. And share the moon with everyone. I'm saying it's a semi-truck of the SC. It is. I mean, it's the lore. In the lore, the Argo likes to say every bit of cargo in the verse goes through an Argo Cargo. Because they're so ubiquitous. They're used as station tenders for large stations. They're used as large ship ferries, so from ship to ship in the military as well as in industrial purposes. They're used all the time. So an Argo has, if it's in your hand, it likely went through an Argo Cargo. The MPUV. Gameplay of the mind. Yeah. That's what tonight's stream is. Yeah, non-lethal weapons will be cool for opening gameplay loops. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's supposed to be a couple more utility attachments. There's supposed to be a utility attachment for a welding slash, like a salvage slash repair arm. And then there was also supposed to be like the personnel variant is actually a rescue variant, if I remember correctly. So. Little ship that does, yeah. It's not really like the actual comparison of a semi in Star Citizen, a semi-truck. A lorry, if you will, if you're not in the United States, is probably the whole series. The Argo Cargo or the Argo MPUV is more like, it's not as glorious as the semi-truck. It's the forklift of the verse. That's really what its job is. Its job is to unload bigger ships and move ship stuff back and forth. It's like the electric forklift. Happy Thursday to you. Hope you have a great weekend. Thank you too, SFX. Thanks so much for that raid there, Star Citizen Dead to Rights. How you doing, buddy? We're just talking about the MPUV, the best ship in the universe. We're trying to win best in show. For those of you who are watching this and new to the verse, and if this is your first time watching, hello. Every year there's a competition called Best in Show. The Best in Show competition is almost always done, where it's done to give specific types of skins for the IAE. So what the top 4 ships that win Best in Show will all get IAE skins, or Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, which is the event where you can buy every ship in the game almost and try all of them out in the verse, because they're all going to be like once or twice a day. They'll be on a show floor, this time in Orison. So good. I like that ship. Yeah. Hey Cap, in what patch would you think they would wipe, if at all? Either 3.15, I expect a partial wipe, and I think the first patch they're going to actually have a wipe will probably be Probably the first patch they get dynamic missions in. When they introduce the dynamic economy, and I think starting with dynamic missions, that will be the like true dynamic missions. I think that will be the first major wipe. And I honestly think that after that, they probably won't wipe much unless they, have to. They'll probably wipe a lot right afterwards because they're kind of working out the kinks, but then they'll stop wiping after, 6 or 7 wipes. So patch 69 then. Yes. Nice. 6.9. Meet, thank you so much for 2 months of subscription on Prime there. Hikawa Dean. BTV has to win. It's the best. I will vote for the PTV next year if you vote for the Argo this year. I will make the Grey Cat PTV my next campaign next year. Because I also agree that it is a venerable ship like the Argo Cargo that needs a lot more love. That vehicle needs a lot more love than it gets. MPUV 1S for the win. I don't know like how they split the Argo Cargo and the transport. They're the same ship. The MPUV is the MPUV. The variants are just depends on which attachment you're using. It's just a module design. Hey Red, how you doing? Most PvP players get angry every year since most of the ships that make it to the tour are utility ships. Yeah, because that's what most people like. The average person is going to like a utility ship over a pure combat ship or a pure profession ship because more people can use them. You never wipe? That sounds bad, Sharp. That sounds bad. For more Argo history and origin, there's the first Lore Citizen podcast. Yeah, the first Lore Citizen podcast, we actually talk a little bit about Argo's history. Algrid specifically talks about Argo's history because it's actually one of the oldest companies in the verse. Argo Astronautics. It originally was called Argo. AR-GO. So I'm not normally a LE. Are not able to Alpha Hours, just discussion. Yes, Kale. So Alpha Hours is our kind of chill discussion. I only stream for about 2 hours or so, and I stream on YouTube and Twitch, and this gets uploaded to YouTube after the fact, or just gets saved on YouTube after the fact. And the idea is it's more of a, if the captain's table is like an interaction with the community through content creators or through specific individuals, this is more of a kind of a laid back stream where I combine my love of lore, some discussion on development, and just random stuff that's hanging out. It's more of a shoot the shit kind of stream, but we stay mostly on Star Citizen, which is the reason why I stream in Star Citizen. Thomas, I think the Redeemer is an awesome utility ship, though it doesn't have a storage capacity to run most missions alone or with a crew. I don't think the Redeemer can be eligible for this year because I think it's only ships that are flyable in the verse. Like right now. The MPUV just has to be the 8-man escape pod from the Javelin. It has to be. That is definitely what it is. It's just the 8-man. It's just it's just an Argo MPUV with a pod on the back. Also PTV with a matte black paint for primer flames for the win. Yes. Current flyable only. Yeah. So it'll win next year. The Redeemer will win next year because it's just that kind of ship. But if it has to win alongside a PTV next year, I will be happy. I will be victorious. Oh, the Redeemer won, Paul. What do you think? I don't care. It has to share a podium with a Grey Cat. With a Grey Cat golf cart. I think Redeemer will be a flop. Expectations are too high. I don't think it'll flop. I think it'll be much more of a a Mercury situation than a Carrick situation. But yeah, I think a lot of people are setting themselves up for disappointment. The CIG is going to do something with size 5s before before the Redeemer gets released. So for those of you who don't know, Kale says, if they both win, I want matching complementary paint jobs. That's the idea. There are 4 ships that will win any competition because you get down to brackets of 4, and then you get the top 2 and the bottom 2. And then whoever wins those will go on to the top 2 bottom, like the final vote. And then whoever wins that vote for the top contest wins. And then the second place is the second place. And then whoever got the third and fourth I think they kind of set up by the number of votes they got or something like that. So the top 4 get skins. One is officially labeled best in show, but all 4 are basically the best in show. Tell me you don't like the Redeemer without telling me you don't like the Redeemer. I don't enjoy garbage on fire as a spaceship. I got 5 million riding on them screwing up the Redeemer release. Oh, I 100% believe that. Does Xenothreat use the Argo cargo? They don't, and they fear the Argo cargo because I have managed to destroy. Actually, I say destroy. I have managed to defeat an Idris with an Argo cargo. I did it live on Twitch. I'm going to pull the VOD and I'm going to make it a video on YouTube. So keep an eye out for that. When in-game elections happening, do the players have the ability to vote? Yes. And such. Is it just backend and a thing in the gameplay? I think when CIG manages to get around to adding another election, which would be for the Senate at some point, they'll definitely have an in-game event for it where players can vote. But it's likely they're going to wait until the citizenship thing is implemented, which, sounds like, oh, that'll be like forever. It's like, it'll probably be 3 years. Like, that sounds like forever, but it's not. We've already waited basically 10, and there's a lot more content now. So yeah, just like the MH-35 or 53 Pavlo, dangerous, garbage-looking gunship that's near and dear to my heart. Question. Okay, I think you already asked that, and I think I answered that. The 890 escape pod has the same measurements, so you could have a luxury MPU-UP. Yep, the luxury MPU for the sophisticated. What is the citizenship feature? So, for those of you who don't know about citizenship, the game is built. Let me a little bit of the lore. So, the universe of Star Citizen. We are all residents of what's called the United Empire of Earth. There's a long story behind it, but essentially it was created by a fascist. They killed the fascist. They still liked a lot of the fascist ideas, so they kept most of the trappings of the fascism with just new paints of democracy on it. It went from a dictatorship to an oligarchy. But even before that, humanity had always had this thing called citizenship. The idea being that if you did some service to the human government, the unified human government, you would get rewarded with special perks, like easier travel between star systems, easier to create businesses. There's licensing. It's very similar to Heinlein's idea of citizenship from Starship Troopers. And the most common way you get it is through military service. It's heavily based on Heinlein's concept, but also based off of the Roman Empire and how they used citizenship in the Roman Empire, how that worked, how service in the military generally guaranteed you citizenship if you were not a resident of Rome, and many Romans saw that as a requirement to gain citizenship is to serve in the military. So, but anyways. In game, there's going to be perks for it. Like you won't be able to, like you'll have the ability to maybe have lower fines, be less, or have discounts for things like hangar fees, or creating an organization in game. There'll be some benefits to it, and one of those will be likely being able to vote in senatorial elections. So it sounds mostly like a gimmick, and it kind of is. but it also will likely influence the lore, which will influence the story, which will influence the game. That's kind of how CIG's lore team and the development team seems to be working, is they want to build a framework that have specific points of interest for storytelling, and the player's impact on that story point will then drive the narrative forward. Create a couple of nexus point events that players have a hand in, and then depending on what they do, will then set this universe off into its own different direction. For instance, the players are essentially elected Leilani Addison to the new Imperator, the new leader of the government, last year. And she was a very popular candidate amongst the players, and the writers themselves didn't think she was going to win. So when she won, they had to kind of rethink how they wanted to tell the story. They still had an idea of where the story was going to go, but now they had to add a Leilani Addison flavor to it in terms of the overall narrative of the universe. So that's what's important to understand. Question: am I looking to buy a fighter? Which would you recommend? None of them. I'm gonna pull my Inforunner's hat on and say, burn your fighters, or melt your fighters. In terms of fighters, though, if you really, really want a fighter, an arrow is usually a good starter. And if you're buying it in-game, oh yeah, it's fine. Buy an arrow. An arrow or a saber is not a bad choice, but an arrow is a good starter. It's usually fairly cheap. You get a lot of bang for your buck. It's pretty maneuverable, and yeah, an arrow. If you have more cash, then a Vanguard's good because it has speed, distance, firepower, and maneuverability. Sell your fighters, TM, yeah. Also, with mentioning that anyone who finishes Squadron 42 campaign will also automatically be a citizen. Correct. The idea is that if you play the single-player game, you will get citizenship. We do not know how players in-game will get citizenship without Squadron 42, but there may be options. I'm keeping the Cutlass. The Cutlass is a fantastic goal, but it's not a fighter. It's a utility ship. It can do fighting, and is really good at fighting. You know, as much as the PvPers and the combat pilots will like to shit on it, Cutlass is still a Cutlass. It's still good at what it does. Just don't expect it to punch above its weight class. The Arrow's default current loadout does suck and needs to be upgraded. Yeah, probably. Also, if you beat Squadron 42, you get access to the F8C. Yes, you don't necessarily get access to the F8C. You get access to purchase the F8C in-game. Connie is the best fighter if you have friends. Yes. I expect, since the Argo MPU VC is the ultimatum vehicle of the Idris, I would say yes. Xenothreat uses it. I think you're lore-wise wrong. Oh, I'm sure I am lore-wise, but I haven't seen them use it. They haven't pulled it out. And if they pulled it out, we would have had an epic duel of fates moment where I would have tried to ram the other Argo. There can be only one. You are the chosen one. You were meant to bring balance to the universe, not destroy it. UE must fall just for having a crappy national flag symbol. Nah, they don't have a bad symbol. I don't like that take. I feel like that take is a shitty take by people who popularized by people who are angry at sci-fi. I really don't hate them either. It's just like the more I've watched of them, the more I realize they go for absolute shit takes because of it makes them more views. It's a clever marketing strategy. Piss off your audience and more people will come, but it also eventually will build an audience of people who think you're right all the time and don't question you. The reason why I said the UEE must fall is because I'm going to talk a little bit about the dystopian nature of the UEE here in a moment, and it has to do a little bit with what I talked about with citizenship. Question: I have a Star Runner at the moment. Would it be a good idea to upgrade that to a Retaliator, Vanguard, or Eclipse? Only if you want combat. Right now, upgrading a ship to a base retaliator is going to be okay until they add modules. The second they add modules, you will lose all your torpedoes and you just get empty slots that you have to put modules into. So you have to purchase the modules separately when that happens. And with Cousin Crows coming out, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next year or so modularity is going to come in and nerf the base retaliator owners. So. Hey, Pickleskin. We talk about Templin or the now defunct Inside Gaming? A little bit of Templin, mostly. And again, I don't hate the Templin Institute guys. I get what they're doing. I understand it. You know, you got to make that YouTube cash, especially if you're doing it for a living. And they have good quality. They have fantastic quality in terms of their visuals and their narration. It's just ever since they've just been rage dumping on SC lore, I've been going, what? And then, you know, they produce a lot of videos that are just like, this sci-fi sucks. And I'm like, oh my God, it's this kind of group. I'll let you in on a secret. I hate lore channels and content creators who thrive off of absolute reality. And I hate this argument in fiction, which is, well, it doesn't make sense to reality. You know, oh, it doesn't make sense. Like this, that's not how it's supposed to work. Or like a good argument, like an argument that seems like it's good on face, but also has seeds of this is the Last Jedi verse. And while I tend to agree in the sense that there could have been ways of doing that same scene in a similar dramatic way without breaking the rules of the universe, the arguments I've seen for it were just, it doesn't make any sense. Why would she turn and ram? Or blah, you know, that kind of thing. And it's like, you don't get the symbolism. You don't get the concept of what this is. And it makes sense to the characters in the universe for that purpose. The worlds of fiction do not have to be 100% accurate. Not everything has to be the fucking Silmarillion to be good. And there's this kernel that I've seen in a lot of lore channels where it's like, it has to be right. This is like, this universe is fundamentally, logically wrong. This is a bad universe. Like, one of the series that I absolutely hate is Civilization's Too Stupid to Live, which is like, what? What? Oh yeah, in reality, this would happen. I don't care what would happen in reality. This isn't reality. This is fiction. Why does everything have to be real? It's the same arguments that I see in Star Citizen where people go, well, in the future, we don't fucking care about the future. We fly in space fighters. It's not realistic at all. Like, this whole argument based off of realism for storytelling is detrimental and just weird. It feels like paint by numbers storytelling. It feels like people just get angry that they aren't writing stories, and that they would write it, they would have detailed schematics of every single lightspeed drive that exists. Like, fuck it, fuck that. No one gives a shit. Give me laser swords and space wizards. Give me pew-pews and angry aliens trying to kill everything. As long as you make interesting characters or an interesting story, I don't give a fuck. And you know, well, within reason. Of course, you have to make it make sense in the universe. But if it makes sense in the universe it's in, who gives a shit? Like, that's my problem with a lot of lore channels out there, which is why I tend to enjoy things like the 40K lore channels, because 40K gives zero fucks about it being consistent. Because it's been around for fucking 40 years, and they're just like, fuck it.
Free, y'all. Let's
just get weird with it. Which is fantastic, you know? Sorry, that's a weird tantrum. Man, I love Jupiter Ascending. Jupiter Ascending was good, yeah. People seem to see that fiction what fiction means in science fiction, yeah. Snug Argo forklift. It has it's the Taurus has tractor beams in the bottom turret. It's fantastic for that. I want to be able to choose the color skin for my ship. I wish they would have made the name bigger. You can't even see that. They're going to change that with the naming. And I would like, with Cousin Crows, the ability is just to paint my ship rather than having to buy skins. 40k lore. The more orcs believe, the stronger they become. One thing I hate about 40k in media is they show Space Marines running into the open like doofuses and dying. Yeah, but that's the point. It's like it's a universe that's kind of stupid. It's not tactical. You're throwing literal meat shields with mini suns and essentially Kevlar at at literal gods and dark Cthulhu shit. Some straight up cosmic horrors. And their mini sun shooter is quite literally the weakest gun in the universe. Have I seen the Astartes fan film? I love Astartes. It's fantastic work. The Taurus doesn't suck. It's good for what it does. It's just, don't ask it to do much else. So I'm not reading up on it, but from the Earth Terran factions, basically IMC is the militia from Titanfall. Yes. Versus the militia from Titanfall. Kind of, yeah. With IMC being the UEE and the militia from Titanfall being more of the Terrans. Yeah. Guardsmen might as well say pew pew as they fire their laser rifles might help. Yeah. But yeah, you know, my point, I actually still haven't painted these guys. I've been meaning to sit down and paint them, but I just haven't really had the time. I'm going to do it this week, I think, or next week. Silly dumb question. If you had to compare 40k and Star Citizen, which Star Citizen faction is the Star Citizen version of the Cult of Slaanesh? The Banu. Didn't even have to think about it. Banu. 100%, 1000% the Banu. Flashlights and cardboard for the Emperor. Bro, who even pays their minis? Just buy more. I've actually reached the point where I'm not going to buy any more minis because I have enough minis to field an army, and I actually went out and purchased a bunch of minis about 4 or 5 months ago to buff out my guard army a little bit more, and I have finished buying everything I need for my orcs. So I want to sit down. I know this sounds like heresy, but I'm going to sit down and paint what I have. Because I also have Star Citizen ships models that I'm going to have to assemble and paint that I haven't done that yet. So, and I've got some Star Wars Legion stuff that I'm trying out. So, Bindcast is still a thing. They're getting rid of it, but yeah, it still exists. I remember the movie. In addition to the tractor beam, the ventral turret was a great addition, or really makes the Taurus pop. Yeah, it does. I'm not going to buy more minis. I literally am done. Like I probably will buy more stuff once I've finished the orcs. But I've got a lot to do. Like these are my last. I got these, and then I got the beast snaggers to do. And then after I do the beast snaggers, I have some bikes to do. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 vehicles to do. Vehicles are easier to do than these miniature guys because they're big and easy. They're not a lot of detail, but they're big, so it's not that hard. And I just sit down and do one at a time. So I could probably knock all of that out in like a month or two. Unless I sit down and try hard. Doing some kit bashes with Star Citizen models? Oh, hold on, let me show you. Yep, I've been showing that. Let's try this one. Boom, baby. Orc freelancer, let's go. So Synth World is a little complicated. I'll explain that here in a bit. Huge 3D print. That's honestly true. I'm actually thinking about getting a 3D printer because, like, I'm at the point where I need people to play with. So I really need to finish my kill team. I'm actually making a kill team, a custom kill team that matches the kill team, the guard veterans from that are the Krieg guard veterans, but Arcadians. So they match the aesthetics, they match all of the like kind of the roles. So I'm just gonna play with the guard veterans, but I've got one more model that's coming in, or one more piece of the models that I get coming in before I can get that finished. And then I gotta prime those little bits, and then I can paint that. And once I can get that, I can convince Cam to finish her models so she can paint, and then I can do that. So sorry on my little 40K lore bit, but yeah. I've looked at the Expanse tabletop rules. Those models would be perfect. I have, yeah. Of course I have. I played the Expanse tabletop RPG live on Twitch Saturday mornings. We're taking a break right now, but it exists. I don't know how much I can say, but I can tell you that there is definitely someone who is working on doing a space combat version with the models that JRDF has created, the 1 to 500 scale, for Star Citizen. A tabletop. There is someone who is working on it. That's all I'm going to say. Because I don't know how much I can say. No, you should check out Nora. You should check out the videos. I do them. They're on my other channel, The Spice Must Roll. So YouTube.com/The Spice Must Roll. You go there. You can check out. We've got 3 seasons of content with just the Expanse RPG. You're late to class again, yeah. We're just starting right now. Kind of unrelated, but I hope we can get some Star Citizen mods for instances like Star Citizen ships for Sins of the Solar Empire. Would be super cool. Yeah, I'd like to see that. It's definitely not a. So, is the presenter in the in-game movies sounds and acts like Jeremy Clarkson on purpose, or is it just a coincidence? It's on purpose. It's 100% on purpose. That's critical low level of content. It's not critical role levels of quality. The early streams were really bad in audio. We fixed it as we went along, but yeah. And the story kind of developed. I kind of got a hand for what I wanted to do with that series about season 2. And then season 3, we just started in July, and we took a break, and we're going to come back in October-ish and finish up season 2. It's got Mythmatic. It has HP Braincase, Buster the Destroyer, Meyer, and Dr. Drones. They're the main players in it. They play on a ship called the Actium. So with those models, will we see a Star Citizen version of Star Wars Armada? Kind of, yeah. Probably more like X-Wing, but yeah. Aw, Captain Richard did his last Star Citizen Nightly News tonight. So he's just no longer going to do a nightly news wrap anymore, or is that just for the current time being? Because I mean he does streaming for a living now, so I'm sure he does other games like I'm sure Alien Fire Team, Aliens Fire Team is a big one for him, but other games as well he gets sponsored for, I'm sure. What do I think will be the big reveal at Citizencon? Man, we haven't even started talking about the actual content that I wanted to talk to, and it's been an hour. I think the big reveal at Citizencon will be Nyx. I think it'll be Nyx and then something related to Squadron 42. Question: do you think we'll be able to create our own faction added to Star Citizen? What would you do? Sky's the limit. Pirates, military, civilian group, etc. And any Star Citizen? I mean, yeah, I got lots of ideas, but like one of my ideas would be a a group of rebels against the UEE who are, oh gosh, what was it? So I don't remember where the system would be, but kind of ANCAP rebels. Because we already have the kind of Nixian socialist rebels, the like kind of the communist, communes, the hippie commune with guns, and so something like that, but like the ANCAP commune, because that would be a little bit more interesting in terms of storytelling, exploring a place that is absolutely against the UEE, but would share almost no connection with any of the other rebels out there. Kind of showing the variety of problems with the UEE from all sides of the political spectrum. And you mean libertarians? I mean like extremist libertarians. And caps are a little bit more than just libertarians. I love a Star Citizen RTS game. I would too. Port All Stars here to stay. They updated the lights. It's not going anywhere. No, but yes, but no. They likely go. It'll probably get updated in the near future, because the problem is Olisar cannot support capital ships, and that's what it needs to be able to do in order to support the Invictus launch week, which it will definitely host next year. So Olisar has to be able to be updated by March of next year. Just because they worked on the lighting doesn't necessarily mean that they won't change the layout of this, because they also did Levski, and Levski's gone from the game. So they're just going through all the habs and making them work. Did someone say ANCAP? Yeah, I said ANCAP. Basically Space Rapture. Yeah, something like Space Rapture. Or, yeah. That'd be kind of interesting. Finally seen this live. Thank you, Eleven's Hanger. I really want to see more Squadron Warrior 2. Yeah. All right, so let me explain. So this has been 45 minutes in with a bunch of other tangents. If you watch this on YouTube, you're probably like, why did he say the UEE will fail? Well, let me explain the universe. So something has been kind of digging at me ever since this last Invictus. There was an announcement on the broadcast of Invictus for the Robert Space Industries kind of division presentation that explained that when the UNE, the first human unified human government, was formed, the Robert Space Industries was a major advisor to the creation of the UNE Navy. And I think that tipped my head a little bit more than... They tip their hand a lot more than they usually do. I think a lot of people don't realize this, but Star Citizen takes heavy influences from Aliens and Blade Runner, both of which are supposedly take place in the same universe, and both of them are heavily inspired by cyberpunk dystopia. The Weyland-Yutani company is a fantastic example of corporate insanity. And Star Citizen has kind of that, you add a little bit of the Verhoeven Starship Troopers, which a lot of people go, ooh, rah, yeah, it's really great. And it's like, it's a critique of fascism, Verhoeven's Starship Troopers. And Chris Roberts, up until fairly recently, has been a massive film buff. So these themes that he's pulling are not just aesthetic, they're intentional. And they're intentional in his storytelling, especially when we look at his previous work, the last work he did in terms of narrative before he went off to do movies and television shows. Probably the biggest would be Wing Commander 4, I believe, the Wings of Freedom or whatever it is, where there's a major plot where the government is actually the bad guy. That, there's this internal coup that's being set up, and you as the player are trying to reveal the coup. So, That's important. To understand that Chris Roberts is not afraid to tell political stories. He just tells them in his own cinematic way. So the universe of Star Citizen, as I said, is a dystopia. I'm going to do an entire lore breakdown explaining why and how it's a dystopia. I'm going to start doing a little bit more of those videos where I'm explaining what the universe is by pulling evidence here and there to kind of explain the narrative drive of these things. So from the beginning, major megacorporations have been at the heart of human society in space, and they have never stopped being. So as a result, the current UEE has a problem. It is not the fascist dictatorship of the Mezzers, which was held together by fear and guns, but it is not the freedom for all democracy that it pretends to be. It still very much locks people out of the abilities to do things like vote, hold office, and mostly be able to determine their own destinies. Most people who are not citizens do not leave their planets, and most people who don't live on the core best worlds in the Star Citizen universe are 100% living in subpar conditions. There are a lot more lorvilles than there are microtechs. And as a result, those people who make up the main body of the populations that are taxed and are leveraged as manpower for the UEE will only be able to work so much until they crack. And they've already seen within possibly 2 generations that collective action is possible and it is 100% viable as a means to overturn a government. The Mezzers were overthrown in a month by collective action of coordinated groups of rebels who had one goal in mind. They may have had some corporate help or some outside help from like the Xi'an, but not necessarily a lot. We don't really know. Most of it was them doing the work because the government fucked up and trained them how to do it. But it was the people. So you've got a group of people who are starving to death, who are living in shitty conditions, and are told that to get out of poverty, you just got to go risk your life fighting aliens that turn 4-bedroom homes into food. It's not very pleasant. Either live on your shitball planet or come risk getting your face blown off or be slowly stabbed to death by crazy aliens who are dedicated to nothing but war. And if you survive that, maybe we'll give you the good shit. The UEE is teetering. Not only that, but there's already a rift forming within the elites of the UEE. Terra is itself its own, it kind of feels itself as its own independent nation compared to Earth. They're getting a lot more power financially from major companies. They're politically more savvy, and they have really good connections with the Xi'an Empire and good trading with the Xi'an Empire, which is a major ally. Earth is getting, and the Centralists are becoming more and more isolated and paranoid about everything around them. And these two sides are going to eventually collide. When they collide, it will destroy the entirety of the universe. Or the universe. It'll destroy the entirety of the UEE. And all it takes is a spark. The UEE will fail. And when it fails, it will be the spark that will probably be lit by a player. So even though the UEE will fall, and Star Citizen is a dystopia, it's actually a really good background to put players as agents of chaos into it and making those decisions about who comes out at the other end. The universe is broken. It's messy. The systems are failing. There's enemies everywhere. But it's up to you to decide if this system deserves to be redeemed, to be fixed, to be salvaged. And it's not going to be able to be done by one player, but by collective action. So That's my TED talk on why the UEE will fail. Not gone from the game, gone from Stanton. Levski will be back with Mix. Yes, but it's gone from Stanton, yet they showed off the lighting for it, even though they're probably going to do an overhaul of it. So just seeing lighting of Olisar doesn't mean that Olisar isn't going to be removed or changed. Yeah. A new life awaits you in off-world colonies. A chance to begin again in a golden land of opportunity and adventure. Yeah, it's Blade Runner. Yeah. It's my understanding that the Starship Troopers movie was made for critique of fascism, not necessarily unsuccessfully, in my opinion. I think it was successful, but it's Verhoeven. Verhoeven is too cool. Verhoeven is very good at hiding satire within dumb action movies, but he did it in such a way that people didn't get the satire. But yeah, no, the movie was definitely a critique of fascism. That was my point. It wasn't. That's why I said Verhoeven and not Heinlein. And I think Verhoeven is much more of an influence on the Star Citizen creative team than Heinlein is. Not that Heinlein isn't an influence for all science fiction, but I think that the angle they're going with citizenship is much more a critique of fascism than it is a embracement of libertarian ideals. The problem is that Starship Troopers doesn't really portray fascism at all. It gives a government a fascist paint job and some propaganda. I mean, that's what Verhoeven was arguing, was that that Starship Troopers, the book, claims to be this ideal society created by Heinlein as more of a libertarian utopia. But Verhoeven's concept was, if you gear a society around war, all they'll know is war, and they'll be looking for fights everywhere they go in order to prove themselves. So even though in theory you're not forced to do anything, you eventually are forced, and in order to achieve your goals. Even in Verhoeven's stories, you have people who are doing it because they want to have children and be able to get licenses, and they're using the military as a stepping stone, and they die horribly by getting eaten by bugs. Like that's not a on the face metaphor of like, we destroy the youth for the sake of the power of the old and the wealthy. Yeah. It's campy as hell, and people thought it was a joke in itself. That's kind of the point. It was supposed to be campy. Well, the homesteads are neat. You can see how those people live. Exactly. It'd also be good for scarcity for a scarcity economic system. Exactly, Marcus. So yeah, like there is some political storytelling going on in the Star Citizen universe in the background, but I don't think that the writers are trying to overtly push a political message. What they're doing is they're taking a middle ground approach to this universe and trying to flesh it out as normally as possible. They didn't want to say, hey, the centralists are fascists, but they do want to code them in a much more conservative mindset, not like necessarily to the degree of fascists, but they do have fascists. They have people like Xenothreat, who exist as space fascists. So they do have those people there, but they don't want to like paint broad strokes of just stereotypes. And they even said so that they try to move as much away from stereotypes as possible, especially with alien cultures, because that's just not helpful. So yeah, generally they want to create a universe that is believable in the sense that it makes sense and it feels connected to our modern day, but also not perfect and rife for problems, which is why they chose the end of the Roman Empire as its jumping off point, because the second century crisis, I can't remember which one is, it's second or third century, is a fantastic kind of backdrop to set interesting agents of chaos loose. That's what it is. And players are agents of chaos. To stand in your seats is to be a puppet of Xi'an, meddling in our freedom. Terran separatists and Leilani Addison are evidence of the extent of Xi'an machinations. Stand on your seats for freedom. I still want standing on seats to be a protest for a sign of protest in the Star Citizen universe. And for those of you who don't know, the reason why it makes sense is Lorville is a hotbed of kind of anti-establishment thinking, because how shitty conditions are in Lorville has spawned a lot of anti-Hurston rebels. And Hurston is famous for having life contracts, which is another word for slavery. But they get desperate people who are just out of prison or are looking to, or are broke or have no future. They sign them up for a lifetime contract saying, hey, you're going to get paid no matter what, and we'll set you up for everything you need to live. You'll be fine. We'll take care of you. And then only pay them enough so that they can get by and never enough so that they can advance in life. And they've been highly criticized for that in the UEE. They're voted as one of the worst companies in the verse routinely for this kind of practice. And there are active insurgent movements inside Hurston, which is where if you take those Righteous Raid missions, those bunker missions that are in the personal tab in the Hurston space, you're killing, and you kill Hurston security, you're killing Hurston security. You're working for the rebels. So it would make sense, even though it's a bug that, they're standing on chairs, we first saw that bug at Lorville. So adapting that as a sign of protest makes sense because historically, for instance, a famous anti-fascist symbol is the umbrella. And the reason why it's an anti-fascist symbol is because I want to say Nelson Sinclair, but that's wrong. Then I want to say Neville Sinclair, but that's the Rocketeer. Neville Chamberlain, that's why. Neville Chamberlain. Neville Chamberlain famously always carried an umbrella where he went. And so anti-fascist people in the 40s, 50s, and 60s began to carry umbrellas where they went, as a sign of resistance against fascism, as a kind of co-opting this as a symbol of reminding that, Neville Chamberlain's capitulated to fascists. So something like that, as simple as an umbrella turning into a symbol of protest, is quite common throughout human history. So the idea of people standing on chairs becoming a protest sign would also make sense. So I think it'd be cool. It'd also be a nice little nod towards the bugs in the early way of by adding it into the universe. If we still have centralized government this far in the future, I'll be spinning in my grave. Yeah, it would be nearly impossible to keep a centralized government in the style of modern nation states. With the distances it takes to travel in this universe. Xenothreat are Meserites, downright crazy. Yeah, people who are being driven down more and more so their seats by the power, so they stand against the power. Yeah, it works. Hurston is the Amazon of the UEE. Sort of. Voyager Direct is the Amazon of the UEE directly, but yeah. World Resistance versus Reign, given it was the UK. Haha, but yeah. 100% agree. Chair protest started in Hurston. The Santon system stood in solidarity with the server mesh charter that brought into law in the UEE. Something like that, yeah. When you T-pose, in addition to chair standing, it's equivalent to a middle finger with their society. The terminal fall of the Roman Empire was in the 5th century, around the time of Hunnic incursions. Yes, but I'm talking about I want to say it's the 3rd century crisis, when there were 7 emperors in 100 years, or 7 emperors in 50 years or something like that. Essentially, it started off because a Roman emperor got killed campaigning in Persia, and no one was left to succeed, so it started a civil war. and then the general who took over became the emperor for a little while, and then he was killed, and it started this cascading crisis of who's in power and how do you control this massive estate with all you have, and it ended with not Hadrian, but the emperor before Hadrian. Hadrian solidified the kind of new empire. Was it Hadrian? Or I'm thinking of Constantine. It might be Constantine I'm thinking about. Basically, it ended around by basically breaking the empire in two. You mentioned earlier, yeah. Okay. Hey, Laughing Jack, thanks for missing that Twitch Prime for 5 months. Person is Appalachia. Yes, that's probably the most apt thing. It's their coal mining towns. In fact, the name Lorville is a play on. Let me look up that term real quickly, and then we'll talk about the updates. So Lorville is spelled Lorville. Lorville's original name stood for Local Occupational Residency, LOR. Initially founded as a barracks for employees of Hurston Dynamics under the letter designation LOR for Local Occupational Residency, it has since grown to become the most populous location on the planet. Hurston Dynamics maintains a no-fly zone over the city and requires spacecraft to land at the nearby Tisa spaceport or on top of the central itself. The air quality of Lorville is generally poor due to decades of unrestricted pollution. No one really knows how Ville got added to the end of it, but eventually did. So Lorville became Lorville, but it was originally essentially a company town. It was just barracks for workers, and it grew from there, which is very similar to the coal mining company towns of Appalachia, where you get paid in script, you go to the company store, you buy what you need to, and you move on, but you never make enough money to really get out of debt. Diocletian. Thank you, Diocletian. What level, Tony asks, what will the level of lore given by CIG be a good sign as to the game dev stage? So closer to the beta, we will see a lot more fleshed out lore and detail. Generally speaking, yes. The way that CIG has talked about how they make the game is they come up with concepts, but once they come up with the concepts, for say like a ship, they go to the lore team and say, hey, this is the idea for a ship we want. And they go, that sounds like Anvil. And then they go back, okay, cool. And then they go back and they go through Anvil's design documents and they go through all of the things. And then once they get it finished, they take the finished product back to the lore team. The lore team then creates lore for that ship, based off of when it was built, based off of its role, like where should it, where should it have been put in history, where is it usually stationed, those sorts of things. And the same thing goes for everything in Star Citizen. So once CIG starts making something, they get the lore team to come in and flesh a little bit of it out. They finish, the development team then finishes what they're working on and then brings the lore team back to complete it. So when the lore team is busy, it means they're either just starting to work on something or they're finishing something. And the lore team, as we'll probably see in this monthly update, is busy as fuck. So and a lot of it is writing new backgrounds for systems, for gameplay, not for gameplay systems, but for solar systems, for star systems. And CIG wouldn't be doing that if they didn't think that they were close to getting star systems in the game. So, well, again, take into account that may mean a year, may mean 2 years, but them having them like kind of work on this is a sign that they're finalizing these ideas or they're starting to work on these ideas. Both make sense. Constantine split Roman Empire. Hadrian was probably one of the best in keeping it together. Yeah. I know I know Constantine split it. I was talking about I didn't remember if it was Hadrian who was the leader at the end of the second, but it's Diocletian, and I don't remember. I think the third century crisis ended with the split of the empire with Diocletian, and then Constantine kind of solidified that more further. Constantine was after the reign of Diocletian, but that wasn't to unify the empire under one emperor again after the Tetrarchy. Yeah. Roman history is fucking weird. Once Star Citizen has fully been realized and has had a title cycle like Skyrim is now, do you think we might see a Star Citizen 2 in the way that Skyrim is TES 5? No, I think CIG is going to milk Star Citizen as much as they can. And by that, I mean, I think it's going to be more like WoW or EVE than it's going to be like the Elder Scrolls. CIG has said that they want to tell stories, but they're content to telling fully realized stories in single player expansions. And we're talking about the team who was the core of the Lego games for a long time. The way that they build games is they build a engine and assets, and once they have those, they're fairly confident in being able to take that and then flip it and turn it into more content pretty quickly. Which is why it's taking them so long to build the tools, because they're building these tools to be able to be used over and over and over again and for multiple purposes. So when Star Citizen is officially released, I would probably expect that there would already be 1 or 2 Squadron 42 releases out there, and they'd probably be working on another and a separate one, like a privateer style gameplay, or a mining style gameplay, or just a space trucker in space kind of story. They're going to tell interesting stories with single player campaigns that will be part of the universe, but separate from the events in the Star Citizen universe actively. So yeah, I don't think they'd ever do a Star Citizen 2. They'd focus more on those single player expansions. They need to start a campaign for Citizencon attendees to stand on chairs during the presentations, going back to being in person. We tried that, but we also don't want to break the chairs in these event halls. They're very expensive. Roman history is mentioned. Everyone pipes up. Yeah. Squadron 42, Chapter 2 and 3 are a thing, but what I want to see is Kid Crimson's focus story game. Heck yeah. I want to see what I really want to see is a Black Flag-esque pirate game for Star Citizen, where you play a pirate. That would be cool. Like, live out a spider, you have to deal with other pirates. Fuck yeah. And $3.95. Okay. Thank you, Omega. Wait, if Earth is more leading into isolation and Xenothreat is for isolation and, well, xenophobic, UEE Deep State is funding Xenothreat. Pyro is close to Terra, and Terra is very pro-Xeno. And there are 3 mil-spec Idrises, whether they get that many. Stika Anu, welcome to the resistance, brother. No, that is actually my theory, is that the Centralists, who are one of the major powers of the UEE, are actually funding Xenothreat. Possibly with some help from inside the military, because many of Xenothreat's top officers, top leaders are ex-military. So, and they attacked only a couple of years after an extremist xenophobic, pro-isolationist UEE or pro-isolationist terrorists attempted to assassinate the Imperator because he was going to sign the Huxaw Treaty, the Human-Xi'an Trade Agreement. Like, people don't realize the Imperator was almost killed, like live on Spectrum in front of everybody, because he was like, I'm going to sign a trade agreement with the Xi'an. So, what lore can I make up for desync? Quantum drives are a hell of a thing. What I want to know is the flashbacks are about. I read his story ages ago and asked Dave about them, but he kept his lips sealed. That's because Kid Crimson's in Squadron 42. If I remember correctly. Isn't he the guy who says, tally's on me, let's go say hi, or am I thinking of a different character? It's Cal Mason. Cal Mason. Yeah, that's different. He's not Kid Crimson, though. Kid Crimson is a pirate, right? Have a game where you rise up as a crime lord in Nexus? That'd be cool. It'd be really cool. Or an entire noir detective story set in the areas of ArcCorp. That would be badass. It's also literally called a cutlass, you know, the quintessential pirate's weapon of choice. Yeah, that's true. You can be a pirate already. The whole Drake line is set up for that original cutlass. Black had a pirate logo. No use on Drake. No use on other Drake ships. Yeah, I know. That was the whole concept. But I'm talking about more of a single player pirate experience, not a multiplayer pirate experience. Where you have like a story and characters and it leads up to a conclusion and you have to make choices. Think Wing Commander, but you're a pirate. Cal Mason wasn't in the vertical slice. He was in the last trailer we got when you saw fucking Superman himself saying, Cal, you take point. And he went, that was Cal Mason who said, tally's on me. Let's say hi. As they were going towards the Vanduul fleet. There are so many spin-off single-player game ideas you could do once the game engine is established. Oh, yeah. I'd love like a bounty hunter game where like you just go out and find bounties. So you have to hunt down bounties and bring them in. Yeah, QT drives causing distortions in space. Yep, there you go. Alien systems? What do you mean by alien systems? Like all of the systems in the Stanton system are alien systems. They're not Earth. They use Earth stuff, but a lot of those planets are also Terran in origin, not Earth. Oh, like an RPG. It would be like an MMORPG. Like it could be an MMORPG like the Old Republic. Nah, not really. I mean, that's not really the plan. That's more like Star Citizen. CIG plans on telling interesting stories in the Star Citizen universe using the assets they built for Star Citizen, but aren't Squadron 42. For those of you who don't know, there is a single-player game set in the Star Citizen universe called Squadron 42. It will release at some point. Systems governed by the Xi'an, Banu, and Vanduul. We have some idea about that. JL would probably be a better person to kind of talk about that. We know it really depends. Like factory worlds of the Xi'an look like ArcCorp. We know that for sure. And there's like, we actually know where Xi'an's like essentially the Vatican of the Xi'an. I was going to say the Rome, but yeah, essentially the Vatican of the Xi'an, or the Jerusalem of Xi'an, the holy see of the Xi'an Empire is. And that is, we stumbled upon it by accident. And it's an entirely like almost virgin planet that's just nothing but like forests and plains and that kind of stuff. Would Stanton be more of a Terran or Earth-controlled system? Very much a Terran system. It has one jump. It's one jump away from Terra. It has a jump point to Terra, which would make it incredibly more influenced by Terra. Any chances we could see a UEE civil war breakout alongside or following the Vanduul storyline? 100%. That was kind of what I was saying earlier, was I'm pretty sure a civil war will happen in the UEE. In fact, CIG has even said that it's going to happen. It's part of their plans. We don't know when or how it's going to happen, but they also said that they want players to decide who wins. So yeah, we'll see a civil war break out, and it'll likely be between Terra. It'll definitely be between Terra and Earth. And the question will be who is involved in it and why. And I'd imagine here's what, if I was CIG, what I would do, because a lot of people would side with Earth, because logically in my brain, people would just stick with Earth rather than with Terra. Terra is kind of like the money interests, And while that's interesting, like most people aren't going to necessarily just side with Terra because they've got Hollywood, you know, the equivalent of Hollywood and tech billionaires. Even though, you know, if you like Anvil, you'd like Terra, or Origin, you like Terra. I think what would likely happen is something would go wrong. The Imperator would be assassinated, and a new Imperator would be put in place who is incredibly, probably dictatorial, or at least a centralist, someone who is much more interested in preserving Earth and Earth traditions at the expense of everybody else. And it'll eventually lead a kind of build and build and build with members of the military going AWOL because they're being told to do stuff that is that they don't want to. And eventually Terra will declare independence with several other systems with a splinter fleet of the UEE. And so that way the players have a choice. You either defend the UEE and this madman, or you defend the weaker but morally right, or more morally correct in your typical kind of gameplay perspective, side with a high chance of losing. But also, if you kind of jive with this guy, because this guy may come out with being very charismatic and being like, the Xi'an are a threat. We need to stop the Vanduul, but we also need to stop the Xi'an. They are trying to hurt us. And he'll probably bring out an actual honest-to-God plot that the Xi'an had, because some stupid fucker in the Xi'an military decided to go rogue and AWOL and try to do something stupid. And something like that would happen, where CIG would try to make it so that one side isn't just a bunch of assholes, fuck them. If these kind of decisions, they want to make the one side seem more sympathetic than the other, but they definitely want the other side to seem human. So, assuming there's a winner and there's what creates several successor states. Yeah, that's another option too. But it depends on what's interesting in the story. New Imperator, possibly dictatorial, centralists. Maybe the centralists have a hidden Mezzer squirreled away somewhere. We do know that the last Mezzer is missing. I keep wanting to say Lydia, but it's look through the Mezzer dynasty. Fiona Mezzer. She's the last living Mezzer that we know of. She disappeared after during the revolution that killed her brother. She disappeared, and that was in 2794. The missing Mezzer is one of the lost Primarchs, yeah. How much money does this madman have to spend? Yeah, that's a good question. Who has the money? That would be, and honestly, I think in that kind of situation, the money would probably fall with the Terrans, because the Terrans are the economic powerhouse of the Empire. So Earth would have the fleets and some justification, but the Terrans would have their own justification, smaller fleets, but a fuck ton more money. Primarchs, he's mentioned, it's a 40K reference. He's joking about that. So there could be dozens of Mezzers now. We don't know. That would be a great story. You have the Civil War here. Let me pitch this before we go to the updates. You pitch this, so you have this situation where the Imperator is assassinated. A new Imperator takes over. He's a little bit more extremist. He brings forward Fiona Mezzer. Says that he advocacy agents captured Fiona Mezzer being smuggled into the UEE space after the assassination attempt by the Xi'an. who were backing her as a means to sow disruption in the UEE. And it could be true that some rogue elements of the Xi'an Empire decided that they needed to try to create chaos in the human empire. And they were caught and punished. But the damage was done. And so now the Terrans are like, yeah, that's fucked, but you don't need to go all dictator. Wait, yeah, she'd be ancient. They have cryopreservation. They have cryopreservation in Star Citizen. So they have like deep sleep chambers for cryopreservation. It's a technology that's ancient in Star Citizen universe. It's very old. It's existed for hundreds of years. So she very well could be on ice somewhere. Oh yeah, Crusader. It would break down like this: Crusader, Anvil, Origin, and Drake would throw in with the Terrans. Likely Argo, RSI, Aegis, and Grey Cat would toss in with the Earthers. Which space? Should add a cryo button to the Hawk back seat, the bounty cubicles to keep those boys on ice. I think that's eventually the idea. Like the bounty chambers in the Blue and in the Stalker, the Avenger Stalker, are cryo chambers. They're supposed to be preservations. In fact, we even see preservation deep sleep cryo chambers in Squadron 42 in the Vertical Slice. So we know they still have those technologies. Alternatively, it could be Mezzers in the UE hierarchy already using pseudonyms and waiting for the right time to take back what's theirs. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that would be an interesting thing. The return of the Mezzers, followed by a civil war. That would also be an interesting thing, where the Mezzers return, take the Earth, and claim power again, and then the Terrans actively revolt. That would also be a much more interesting story, but it would also lead to a bad guy good guy situation, because who the fuck wants to side with the fascist? Oh, you want to side with the space Hitlers? Ah, fuck you. What's that? You want to be space Stalin? Ah, fuck you. We find a moon somewhere in the universe that has hundreds of thousands of Mezzer clones, an army. The Clone Wars. Nothing but clones of Ivar Mezzer. Hey, war is fun in war. Yeah, war is great in video games. Call me crazy, but I would love if you could keep a player bounty in a cell without freezing them. Like, give them a chance to escape and call their friends. I think that's the plan. So, I think in lore, that's what they're supposed to be. But it's my expectation and my understanding of the plan for bounty hunting is simple. You capture a player and you throw them into your bounty chamber. Now, the player has two options. They can accept that they're going to jail and just essentially give up, press a give up button. And the player would go to jail, but the player in the ship would still have to deliver the player to a place to be processed. So essentially the player is replaced by an NPC. And so it's basically like a simple, I'm done sort of thing. Or the player can wait around and see if they can get their friends to come save them, which would also be interesting, but it would also require, you could also risk that player getting killed by his own friends. So, So I think that's how it's going to work, because you can't have a system where a player is imprisoned forever in a chamber, because that's going to lead to abuses, where players will just abuse that whole system. But if it's a well-written character that's like my ancestor may have been that way, but I'm actually different. People judging a character out of prejudice, not their actions. Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, I don't think, like, I would think that what CIG would do is not an ancestor of the Mezzers. They would bring back Fiona and just say that she's been on ice somewhere. She's been kept preserved in cryo sleep by former Mezzer loyalists for years. And they find a point to unfreeze her and bring her back into power, because she was always smart. Sea of Thieves says hi. Thank you, Witch. I like Sea of Thieves. I've been very, very prominent in saying that Sea of Thieves is a fantastic game that CIG should be taking into account when they're building multi-crew gameplay, because the utter chaos of combat on ships in Sea of Thieves is the stuff of dreams. Or she's a clone. Yeah. What about the Mezzer regime, Electric Boogaloo? Yeah. What about having zombies in Star Citizen? I don't know. We'll see that. Wait, will they unfreeze Disney, though? There are cryo chambers. One mission, isn't there? Yeah, the rescue prisoners mission. Plot twist, she's not the Fiona Mezzer anymore. She's the host to a parasitic Vandal body snatcher. Yeah, it could work. Yeah, I think, Hawk, the way it would probably work is you can't freeze a player, but the freezing mechanic is essentially the give up mechanic, where a player chooses to be frozen by hitting a button on the inside to essentially give up. And they hit that button, they go, fuck it, we're just going to freeze. That essentially works. And you can write it in lore as a legal loophole, where like each cryo bay has a optional option to each authorized cryo bay that is a bed that is used for prisoner transport has an interior button that the prisoner has to push in order to choose to freeze themselves for legal reasons or for moral reasons. But otherwise, prisoners will be transported in these cells standing up, so it's more comfortable for the prisoners to be frozen for transportation purposes. That would be an interesting kind of loophole, so that it would actually add a game system to the idea of giving up and going to prison. Sea of Thieves ships chaotic. What game have you been playing? My team tends to be well coordinated, and then it tends to obliterate 85% of ships when they come across. Well, that's what I mean. It's chaos in the sense that you're coordinated, but it's like you don't know where you're going to get hit. You don't know where the leaks are going to be. So you're running back and forth. Even if you're well prepared, you're often running to and from, grabbing boards, banging things up, having a player on the guns, moving from gun to gun, the pilot moving around. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of movement going on. So, while it's coordination, it's chaotic coordination, because you can't really be orderly in that situation. You just got to move. They're halfway with the surrender mechanics mostly working. Yeah. I hope that after Star Citizen's coding is done, another studio takes some of their coding infrastructure and makes a medieval game with all of Star Citizen's mechanic and just, medieval. I'd like that. I'd like to also see a Wild West game with Star Citizen's scale, but, Wild West. Put them in my Carrick wall like Han Solo as a souvenir. Yeah. Rewards teamwork, hopefully away engineering will in the PU eventually. Yeah, that's my hope as well. All right, so let me pull up the monthly report, since I've been delaying that for a long time. All right, so we've got Star Citizen's monthly report, August 2021. Let's go to the presentation. All right. So we're going to start with let's start with the bottom. I like to start with the bottom and move my way to the top. It's a lot, so I'll do my best. VFX. Last month, the VFX team revisited the new vehicle shader SDF shield based shields. A simplified setup was provided with better scalability options, allowing for fewer effects to be used across the wide range of shield scales. They also began to work on a ship wake effects with the vehicle feature team, which will allow for surface dust, snow, etc. to be displaced when ships are rapidly flying along the surface. This is a continuation of the work recently completed for thruster wind volumes. VFX passes were also done for the Crusader A2 Hercules. One of the unannounced ships was mentioned earlier in the report, or one of the unannounced ships were earlier in the report, and for the Crusader Ares S7 weapons. Okay. Thank you for that $10 there, Brandon. Means a lot to me there on YouTube Super Chat. Fizzy3, did you ever play Red Dead Online? It's pretty good. I actually used to do Red Dead RP. I got to get back into that, but I got to find time for it. I'm just so busy with life and everything else. The vehicle tech team put the finishing touches on the radar scanning and ping refactors for vehicles. They also prepared to incorporate the improvements to first-person gameplay. Some improvements were identified in the existing systems and functionality, which have been included in the upcoming plans accordingly. Bugs were also fixed for Alpha 3.14. Okay. Turbulent. Both Turbulent's web teams worked technical projects to add new capabilities to the engineering platform. E-commerce is working on a new database indexing solution to give the team new capabilities to efficiently search for and create new content. This is primarily for the Pledge store, but will also help create new pages that don't hinder the site's performance. The architecture team is working on a system to improve the way information passes between the various services. This will improve existing systems and enable the team to hit the ground running with new microservices that will interact with other elements of the platform. Okay. Not delaying, you've just been channeling Darj and Seawold going on tangents. We've been talking a lot about lore, though, which is fine. Hey, Ash, how you doing, buddy? I had such high hopes for Red Dead Online, but they never added a proper lawman role. Yeah. All right, Turbulent Services. Turbulent's Live Tools team completed the base framework for the new windowing layout in Hex, along with some of the core functionality. They also supported the PU locations with the Might Bridge tool, working alongside members of the QA and publishing teams. Improvements were made to the crash handling pipeline, refining duplication for Sentry crashes. The game services team achieved a key milestone in the server meshing project, delivering the first version of a new matchmaking system. The service communicating with these new databases now has all the acquired features too, and several optimizations were made. So, for those of you who don't know what the matchmaking system is, the concept is that with matchmaking, there's going to be a profile built of you based off of your preferences in game, and people who are much more likely to do PvP and murder other players specifically will be matched with each other when you go between server instances. So if you go to a server instance, you may have multiple people layered on top of one another, and you would eventually have a matchmaking system that would mesh those two people together. Now, in a dynamic system, I don't know exactly how that would work. I imagine that it would work more along the lines of possibly hiding some players who are there if they're not actively involved or not on their friends list. So you still have a semi-layered system that's going on with the dynamic. It's just not as overt. Preferences in terms of gameplay style. Essentially, the matchmaking system is the replacement for the PvP slider, but it's more dynamic based off of the player's actions than it is based off of the personal preferences. Yeah, that's the idea behind it. Because I thought it was mentioning for like Arena Commander or something like that, but they've mentioned the matchmaking system in the PU before, so not sure if all wolves will be happy to have no sheep. That's the idea being you'll still be able to encounter NPCs. The matchmaking system may also influence the kind of NPCs you interact with as well. But the idea being that people who shy away from PvP will be less likely to encounter other PvP players, which sounds bad, but most PvP players I know who are looking for actual PvP are looking for content that is challenging. I don't see it as a bad thing. No, there's no game is going to survive. No MMO is going to survive based off of its PvP audience alone, unless it's Battlefield, and that's not an MMO. Still no server meshing. It's being worked on. I wouldn't expect it to be finished until next year. Server meshing is a long way out. The earliest it should show up is the end of next year, but we'll know more at Citizencon, which is in October. Hey, Q-Pen. PvPs don't want to push to push seals. Yeah, most PvP players aren't into seal clubbing; they're into fighting. Yeah. All right, systematic services and tools. In August, systematic services and tools continued their work on quantum, the economy, and AI simulation, making improvements to the tools that allow designers to adjust these various systems. The team also worked on edge cases for backend services, adding stability to the service hub and variable filter services. August saw the wrap up of the first player and AI info service to allow the quantum simulation or any other backend service to pull more data at a faster rate as needed. The service engineers also added their gameplay counterparts with improvements to the physical inventory. Work began in earnest on the NPC tracker, which will allow the tracking of NPCs between servers. The system will be used by any gameplay loop that wants or needs to track NPCs as they shift from instigated to virtual AI and move around the verse. Finally, a new generic escrow service wrapped up, allowing for a more streamlined money transaction loop that SST is hoping to integrate with various gameplay loops. Okay, that's cool. It's good to know that. I said good day, sir. How you doing, buddy? Also, PvP lovers love those seal punchers and eat them up like candy. Yeah, because they punch them. Usually, to start PvP in an open world, you need to club some seals. I think that's the purpose of the matchmaking system, though, is to, you can club some seals, but it'll start throwing you to the wolves. So yeah, you can punch down all you want, but eventually you're gonna punch down. You're gonna hit someone in the stomach rather than the head, and now you're gonna have to face the bigger, meaner guy. That's the purpose of filtering that out. But I could be wrong in that, because this is based off of a recollection from 3 years ago, based off of what they talked about how the matchmaking service was supposed to work. And that also doesn't really jive with dynamic meshing, because you assume in a dynamic universe you wouldn't have to layer or instance people together or like choose who gets to see who in a open universe. But they may also be going back to layered. We haven't heard anything on server meshing in a long time in terms of how it's supposed to work. Which, again, we'll learn more about in Citizencon. They actually have a panel on that. So I anticipate it's going to be a very interesting panel, and I anticipate there's going to be a lot of butthurt about it and a lot of excitement for it. So I think it might just be AC, Star Marine, and Theaters of War. Based off of what I've heard, I don't think that's the case. This is, again, before AC, or when AC was existing, but before Star Marine and Theaters of War. They were mentioning a matchmaking service specifically to match players to other players in the universe as related to its to PU. I could be wrong, though. There's no mention of Theaters of War or AC or Star Marine in that. There is mention of the PU, though. Or is that? I'm not seeing it. Oh, yeah. It's mentioned specifically right here. And it's mentioned in relation to server meshing. Game services team achieved a key milestone in server meshing project, delivering the first version of a new matchmaking system. Why would you need server meshing for Theaters of War or Arena Commander? That doesn't seem like a situation where we're talking about matchmaking for Theaters of War. We're talking about the persistent universe. Any idea when the schedule will get posted? Which schedule? It sounded like phasing, but that also assumes that you have layered servers instead of layered mesh servers rather than dynamic mesh servers, which seems like an awful lot of wasted time if you're going to eventually move into dynamic mesh servers. So the question becomes: is the plan to just throw out dynamic mesh servers and we're back to layered mesh servers? Is that the plan? Because that would be new information. That's a stretch there, Kozar. That's a huge stretch to say, like, wait, but those are all test beds, aren't they? That's some Stretch Armstrong shit right there. About like, well, maybe it's because of this, but server meshing is mentioned almost exclusively for the PU. So, Citizencon schedule. No, it's not been posted, but Chris Roberts has mentioned that there is a panel specifically for server meshing. It was one of the updates he did, one of the video updates he did. All right, Q&A. Q&A's primary publishing focus was 1.3.14, testing Xenothreat and Ninetales Lockdown. Mid-month, they were publishing every day to the PTU, testing stability, verifying fixes, and gathering details of issues not reproducible internally. Development-wise, the team undertook familiarity testing with some new features and systems planned for Alpha 3.15. Scheduling was also completed in preparation for the upcoming testing, and plans were drawn up ahead of feature testing. Player Relations. Player Relations Live QA launched this month with a new team. This new team will concentrate on live experience, including the reproducing and triaging player-reported bugs on Issue Council. They also began an early Alpha 3.15 work, focusing on the player experience before it hits Eva Cati. The Player Relations also expanded in the UK and DE to support ever-growing player base, patch releases, and upcoming events. Narrative. So this is important. So if you want to know a little bit what's going on, look about behind the scenes. Narrative is one of those. The lore team essentially is one of those teams to kind of keep an eye on. Narrative team is focused on Alpha 3.15 and throughout August working with design on the contract text for new missions and expanding the organizations and gameplay scopes presented at the Delphi Mobiglass app. Medical gameplay and new hospital and clinic locations were also worked on, with the team making passes on all related UI and branding. New dialogue was recorded to help populate the clinics and new Orison locations. Beyond Alpha 3.15, the team worked on content for the IAE 2951 and upcoming dynamic events. Additionally, they recorded mission audio for the various security forces in Stanton that will add further depth to future content. Preliminary work has begun on the new mission type, and with the team working closely with design to begin prototyping dialogue to support the gameplay, the developer of the narrative content continued for Pyro, further defining what players can expect to encounter in this new system. New lore was released, including a Congress Now debating the appointment of the Xi'an ambassador, along with The Shakedown, a serialized fiction story set on ArcCorp. A new selection of Galactipedia articles was added too. It's pretty cool. I was agreeing with you on the meshing and PU only, as the other modes themselves will eventually be integrated in the PU and some VR probably, as well as some improving FPS. Okay, I thought what you were saying was that because they're test beds, they would test server meshing in those first before they did it in the PU, and it's like I don't see it. I just don't see that being a thing. Lighting, glorious lighting. Lighting team primarily focused on the upcoming content for Alpha 3.15 and future deliverables for Pyro. Passes were completed on locations within Orison, including Crusader Showroom, Cousin Crow's Custom Craft, and Providence Surplus. Lighting work was completed in the space clinics and hospitals at Grimhex, and progress continued in medical areas in Area 18 and Lorville. The team also tackled some smaller backlog items such as further Orison optimization and general bug fixing. Lighting also assisted in the planet content, making a pass on atmospheric and color grading for settings for Pyro's planets and moons, helping to make each feel unique and interesting. There we go. I'm interested in what info they're going to bless us with about medical over the next 2 weeks. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Last month, the graphics team progressed to the render to texture system, which is receiving a mini overhaul to cope with some new UI systems that make extensive use of 3D icons and compositing, such as the personal inventory. They enabled dynamically rendered textures to be cached to allow them to generate a large number of high-quality, super-sampled images with minimal cost. They also dynamically reduced texture resolution in out-of-the-focus areas, e.g. when using the mobiGlass, to relocate more resources to the rest of the game. For Gen 12, the shadow and real-time probe system were converted and will soon be activated by default in the main branch. Yes! No more black squares. Streaming of real-time probes was also completed and enabled, which solves the memory issues in scenes with numerous probes, such as Orison. Alpha 3.15 will mark the first release that utilizes extensive auto-testing for VFX tech. So the programming team spent time resolving bugs to achieve a solid baseline. This will also improve the overall quality of particle effects. Alongside this, they began adding support for refraction into the GPU particle system, matching the functionality of the CPU particle system and surpassing its visual quality. This marks the end of a long-standing goal to implement counterparts of all legacy mesh and sprite functionality in the new CPU particle system. The VFX programming team also continued with their fire hazard system, which now utilizes the new compressed physics render mesh, which obtains accurate surface data without relying on lower resolution and lower accuracy physics properly meshes. The way fire spreads throughout the doorways was improved too. That's pretty cool. That's good. The Gen 12 renderer, the shadow stuff is being worked on. That's fantastic. Features vehicles. Last month, the vehicles team wrapped up development of jump points, creating the gameplay and development tools required to deliver the feature and make it easier to work for other teams. In addition, the team progressed with a number of internal debug tools to monitor IFCS and more easily inspect things like missiles, which will improve future workflow. They also supported the PU feature team with refueling, continued to work on HUD improvements, and supported vehicle experience with bombing-related UIs for Alpha 3.15. Vehicle experience focused on finishing the development of the bombing feature, which entered review stages. They also worked to balance upcoming ships for Alpha 3.15 and beyond, and wrapped up final issues with current patch release. Gameplay features. US gameplay feature team progressed with the knickknacks work mentioned in last month's report. This app is now feature complete and polishing phase production, while the look and the feel is currently being finalized. Knickknacks is your inventory screen, I believe. They also continued to develop dynamic events. We began working on Junktown 2.0, the next dynamic mission, where outposts become hyper-lucrative, tempting players to fight for control of the area and gather as much profit as possible. More information on that coming very soon. They also continued to work on TDDs for the cargo refactor, the character archetype editor, and the new shopping and selling initiative, all of which should be in the review stage soon. That's a good sign. If the new cargo refactor is in the review stage soon, that means that it should be coming out online either in 2.16 or more likely 2.17. 3.16 or 3.17. We're going back in time, folks. Outposts plural, yeah. Any reason to give why that they were requiring Windows 10 with 3.14? I started getting pop-ups about not having the right operating system. It may have to do with the Gen 12 renderer, which is slowly being added to the game. It may require Windows 10. I don't know if that's the case or not. That's something that's a technical issue that CIG would have to answer for you. They haven't said anything about requiring Windows 10, though I assume that it has to do with things like 64-bit operating systems and such. So, Starfarer's getting a tractor. I didn't hear this. I didn't see that. Ooh, hold on. In August, the features team focused on bug fixing and polishing the new player inventory and actor status features. Some of the more amusing bugs, including looting a dead player and finding their ship. And it's all vehicle weapons in their inventory, and lowering a gurney to put on an injured player on it. But in the end of the animation, it starts bouncing around, killing everyone. It's still a cart. You can call it a gurney. You can say it's for medical purposes, but in its soul, feature team, in its soul, it is still a wanton murderer that is trying to kill everyone. It is a weapon of mass destruction waiting to get out. On the technical side, the team began to work on to separate the complex animations required for humanoid and creature skeletons from the medical skeletons. From the more mechanical skeletons, the latter of which are normally significantly more in this more in a scene of more of the latter of which there are normally significantly more of in a scene will benefit from much more streamlined animation update flow. This allows for the animation systems to update rules to be better tailored for each skeleton type, as well as improving update time. This should see a reduction in memory usage in heavily populated areas. That's good. Ooh, whew. All right. So whenever we get to the engine sections of these kind of rundowns, I have to make this caveat. I do not speak coder. I am only minorly fluent in the voodoo that the engine team is capable of producing. So anything I am trying to pull out of this is minute and is likely just words. Sorry for reflecting further up. Okay. In August, the physics team progressed with physical quantum travel in their development stream. They now have a proper quantum grid per solar system and a quantum obstacle component that registers any analytical representation of an obstacle. Some to-be-sorted issues aside, they can now make the equivalent of a blind quantum jump and drop out before hitting a moon along the travel path. Fuck yes. They also continued to improve performance. Among other things, the destruction of static physical entities now runs time-sliced, while querying and processing parts of the physical entity during a collision detection was improved. The physics system code cleanup continued too. For example, the physical world's time step function now makes individual phases of a time step clearer. The transition to Gen 12 renderer progressed through August. Shader activation was made thread-safe and no longer requires explicit synchronization via locks. Volumetric cloud fog volumes now run natively in Gen 12, and the team refactored the use of several reflected shader parameters through the render code and shaders. Tint support was added, as well as scattering query support for the forward shaded objects, and several pieces of legacy code across the renderer code base were cleaned up. That's good. Smells like orbital mechanics. It's a start, that's for sure. Got thrown through a wall by a cart recently. Good times. The first one was finishing everything is a killing machine, and sometimes they stick around. Ramps, ladders, etc. Sometimes. Did you insult the cart's mother or something? Listen, you gotta understand something, Phantom. You just look at a cart the wrong way, and they explode like a nuclear bomb. Those things are weapons of mass destruction. They are almost as dangerous as asteroids. They mentioned you in the Argo Ships of the Year push in ISC. Did they mention me? I thought he just mentioned. I thought they just mentioned some people. I thought it was a cheeky reference. But let me pull that up real quick.
currently in development, you can take to the internet now and vote for your favorite already flyable ships in this year's Ship Showdown, where I hear there's a rather subversive push out there for the Argo cargo. Fight the power, people. But now...
Thank you, Disco. Your approval of our faith will go a long way. All hail the cargo god. May he shower us with goods and services, and may our timers be low and our profits high. I'm glad that I'm a subversive. All right. Rendering atmosphere and volumetric clouds. Time was spent reworking the reprojection and filter chain to ultimately allow ray marching at lower resolutions for improved GPU performance. Improvements were made to the placement of shade samples for ray marching. This includes reprojecting results from previous frames, filtering and denoising cloud depth, and upsampling in scatter and transmittance results to full resolution for various problematic view scenarios. He could literally just be making this shit up, and I have no idea. These scenarios, or they could be making this shit up. These scenarios include orbital views, scenes with high depth complexity, and any scene with strong camera movement. This is all still work in progress, though the team hopes to roll it out shortly. Work was submitted to improve cloud shading by better blending between forward and backward scattering inside them, which is important for rendering of the silver lining. Moreover, improvements were made to the look of cloud edges to give them more volumetric feel. The stepping code for local cloud shadow details was reworked to allow for more details for the same performance cost. On the core engine side, time was spent optimizing low-level systems. For example, various improvements were made to CIG function, which serves as the vehicle and capture and paste C++ lambdas. In this particular case, code and data for deformation asynchronous execution as a job. The next focus was to optimizing the entry unloading stalls plaguing the PU. As a result, several entity unload bottlenecks were rectified. Furthermore, the management of components events was optimized and code to create and destroy them improved. I get some of that. God Argos. Yes. An Argo cargo cult, you say? Yes, we are an Argo cargo cult. Cargo for the cargo god. SCUs for the SCU throne. Work was also done to deliver multiple optimizations in a spatial culling system, which will be used for server meshing. Lastly, the entity component update scheduler was changed to allow more than one update per component pass to enable more flexible use of components. Okay, I don't know what all that is, but... Hey, this is pretty cool. Community. Community team started the launch of Alpha 314 launch with three engaging contests. Players wanted to invite a friend to the verse and claim a unique referral bonus to participate in Wish You Were Here greeting cards. By creating greeting card of Orson. That's nice. Finding Finley screenshot contest starred Crusaders Stormwalls, Francis and Finley, where Crusader coloring contest encouraged community creative focus on the famous Tourer. That's nice. That's pretty cool. Newcomers of Star Citizen were supported with an updated new players comm link, and players briefed about the updated Xenothreat dynamic event. The team also kicked off Ship Showdown 2951, the annual head-to-head battle to determine the community's favorite in-game vehicle. Argo Cargo. Argo MPUV Cargo. Cargo for the cargo god. SCUs for the SCU throne. Vote your god as best in show. All right. I want a mission to steal the large stuffed space whale in Orison. That would be kind of cool. Audio. The SFX team and dialogue teams revisited Orison in August. This time adding ambience and spot effects into 3 areas. New voiceovers and music were implemented to fill out the audio experience too. Ambiances and spot effects were completed for Grimhex Hospital, and incidental voiceovers were recorded to inform players how painful treatments can be. Hold on. CIG, this is my pitch. Attention, residents of Grimhex. Welcome to the Grimhex Clinic. We are morally and legally obligated to remind you that payment is upfront, and satisfaction is not guaranteed. Attention, residents of Grimhex Clinic. This is a friendly reminder. All of our needles and tools are unsanitized. If you get infections, it is not our fault. You came here first, bro. Deal with it. Attention, residents of Grimhex Clinic. A 2-for-1 deal is going on right now. Give us both of your kidneys, and we'll give you one back at half price. Sorry, I had to do it. That music. Give me the bossa nova. All right? Give me some classic music up in that bitch. All right? Give me some 1960s music. Listen, I don't want to see Dr. Nick. I want to see Zoidberg. All right. Mechanism. Mechanism and explosion effects. Involuntary unconsciousness. It's out. It's just not finished yet. It's an alpha. Tech design. This is just kind of a Q&A session. If you have questions about the game, I can give it to you. Damn it, chat. Tech sound design, or mechanism and explosion effects. Don't make me turn that off, chat. Mechanism and explosion sound effects were also added to the mother of all bombs. Tech sound design helped implement the hacking system for the SFX team, adding sounds alongside the usual support. Finally, prep for Citizencon 2951 continued. Audio code collated assets ready to show off their new tech, while SFX supported the locations team with level ambience sounds that will be demoed during the event. All right. Art ships. In the UK, the yet-to-be-announced ship, originally mentioned earlier this year, was completed. The team's final task of creating additional paints is currently underway. The Redeemer is approaching final art complete, with the team finalizing interactive buttons in the cockpit, remote turret bays, component room, and making final polish of the lower deck. Work will also commenced on the MISC Hull A, which is close to being white box complete. Its larger sibling, the Hull C, is currently being brought up to gold standard. August's focus was on the exterior, with the team switching out materials to the newer shader and making sure it's ready for the current paint system. 2 unannounced vehicles continued through progress through its pipeline. One recently completed its gray box review and is approaching final art, while the other is waiting its gray box review, though it is close to having its finalized exterior. That's interesting. Refueling work is also done for the MISC Starfarer. Refueling arm mentioned last month is now complete, with a focus on turning to tractor beam assembly at the rear that forms part of the refueling feature. Nice. The Crusader A2 Hercules passed its final art review too. In the US, the Crusader areas moved through the final art phase, with cockpit, enter and exit system, component housing, landing gear, and thrusters receiving polish. Cool. The cockpit habitation areas, ladder passage, and cargo hold are all nearing the gray box complete for the Drake Vulture. An all-new vehicle is almost gray box complete, while art for variant mentioned in last month was finished. There's a lot of ships that I haven't talked about yet. I'm hoping one of the announced ships is the long-awaited medical variant of the Argo MPUV, which is mentioned in the MPU's concept stale page. Yeah, like a rescue version. Art. Last month, the character art team completed a large batch of new assets for Alpha 315, including a heat-resistant heavy armor that replaced the Caldera Pembroke suit. So a lot of people don't realize that the Caldera Pembroke suit, which is designed right now as just a different color scheme for the same cold weather suit, is going to be completely changed with a brand new hot weather suit. I think it's the same. I think it's still the same. You'll still get the same armor if you like have the hot weather suit, but it'll just look different. So. Do you think they'll ever get the buggy to gold standards? But one day, the MPUV or the PTV, is it PTV? Whatever. The gray cat? No. Yeah, PTV. So the Starfarer is still a fuel refinery or a proper modular refinery, or all mining materials. Last update we got was unclear. Last we heard, it was a refinery for all materials. They said. It wasn't really unclear. They said specifically that all refineries will refine rocks, just to a different degree. So, including the Starfarer being able to refine quantanium into quantum fuel. We just don't have that fully visualized yet. We're likely going to see refueling before we see refining. For player refining. So, the animation team spent part of August focusing on vendors for illegal goods, food, drink, and other items, which involved creating animation previs videos showing how the assets should be used in Pyro. These videos will also enable the team to better communicate with design how to combine assets for different usables in other usables to extend the asset use and give more variety. This work will be used to improve the existing bartenders too. I mean, anything could improve the bartenders. They're broken right now. The team progressed with the overall medical behavior, including patron previs videos, hospital healing functionality, and related related usables. They're also working on drunk locomotion for status changes in both weapon and no weapon stances, with the first drop containing functional assets. The cowering and surrender behaviors mentioned in previous reports progressed through the month, while additional seated idling animations were added to make characters feel more alive. A motion capture (mocap) shoot was arranged to cover blockouts for the hygiene crucible, hacking, navigation, arcade machines, unwell seating, additional vendor animations, and locomotion R&D. The marketing team were supported on an upcoming video too. On the facial side, progress was made on vendor lines and chow line animations. Awesome. Oh crap! You just cost me. How much is the Starfarer again? $195. I think it's pretty expensive. It's the problem is that we don't know. Like what I just said could change tomorrow, but they definitely said that all refineries will refine minerals and that the Starfarer can refine quantum fuel. So. The bartender Grimhex works perfectly for me yesterday. Served me as expected, and then took a drink back and put it under the counter. Exactly. This should only mocap a ton of possibilities and behind the animations using reach points on objects. I don't know if that'll work. Hey, execute. I wake, I'm only realizing we got the blue skins for the Invictus, and it's looking like blue for IAE this year with more blue, more blue skins. I also now want an Astropub Voodoo doll. Astropub was the first day I was heard joining. The first word I heard joining today. Voodoo. If they sort the fuel mechanic out, I may do G2M buyback. That might be a good idea. Yeah. Here's hoping that the nav meshing will be a sign-off in ship nav mesh as well. Hopefully. We'll see. For those of you guys who don't know the nav mesh stuff, essentially what CIG is currently doing is working on a way for AI to walk around on planets just kind of independently without having to be connected to a specific location. This allows them to be essentially wander off into the woods if they want to, but also allows for large open field battles between NPCs and players or other NPCs and NPCs. And for them to say you land on the planet, you park your ship down, you open the back of your Valkyrie, and they decide to just bum rush the Valkyrie. You know, hopefully in the future they'll be able to just run inside your Valkyrie and try to steal it. So. Yeah, let's move to the AI attack. AI behavior improved the Pathfinder system work with planetary navigation mesh tiles. That's what that's what we're just saying. Enabling them to place NPCs on planets and move them from one location to another. They also started to work for generating planet navigation mesh automatically based on a player's proximity. One feature developed this month allows for the player to lead a formation of AI ships, which is initially requested for Squadron 42, but should be available in the PU in the future. There we go. Improvements were also made to the collision avoidance system, including physics optimizations for obstacle queries and a small restructure of related data. Significant effort was also directed in improving AI design paths and how NPCs follow them, as the design paths can be quite complex with multiple branches. They were updated to allow NPCs to follow them in any starting location. Work also continued on the subsumption editor, this time completing the multi-graph view. Quite hoping the Hammerhead makes it into the final four again this time. I like a different skin for that ship, other than the purple and white one we got some years back. The stripper boot. Mocapping only that a few is kind of concerning. I've been working with mocap since 2013, and the normal day of gameplay animation shoot can up to 30,000 characters per second per day. 1 character second being 1 second of an actor being recorded. Having multiple actors at a time allows for the reach for animation recording in seconds. It also depends on the need of the project. Some only need 1,000 characters seconds, but I think that's just could use a ton of data. You do know, Legion, that they also have their own in-house mocap studio, right? They have a portable mocap studio that they ship between the different studios as needed, and they can do throwdowns for mocap actors, including CIG staff who stand in as mocap actors as well. Which they purchased. They purchased the mocap studio a long time ago, so they don't have to kind of rely on other studios. So they do these sort of pickup stuff for specific animations. Okay, cool. I don't know. This is also a summary, so they could be doing thousands of seconds of these sorts of things. This is just a summary of what they're doing to giving to your typical average player, not someone like you who is an experienced mocap artist. Bunker missions will be a lot more entertaining when they can actually shoot you outside the bunker. Imagine being pinned down immediately upon exiting the ship. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'm also hoping for vehicles being driven by NPCs like tanks. The Nova Tank, baby. All right, we're at AI features. AI features continued to work on combat scenarios throughout August. They improved visual perception by adjusting the field of view from and exposing more information for the designers to tweak. The aim of this is to create stealth combat mechanism from player's perspective, which requires adjustable perspective timings and field of view. New functionality was also added to the tactical point system. This enables it to compute path distances when selecting viable relocation points or cover locations during combat rather than just direct distance. NPCs were also set up to use missile turrets. Is the order of introductions of systems based in lore? What do you mean, Firefly? The order of introduction of systems? Like systems that are coming into the game? Hey, Raven Queen. Do you want tank jousting fights? Because that's how you get tank jousting fights. I'd love tank jousting fights. Again, I want to be able to turn out of the top of a tank. Let me turn out CIG, pull out my knife, and then just wave it wildly like a madman. In the game. Sort of. They definitely seem to be following that path because Pyro is connected to Stanton and Nyx is connected to Pyro. So it's logical that they're going to choose systems that are connected to Pyro, Nyx, or Stanton to release in the near future. Planetary systems, you mean? Planetary systems should come online at the same time as star systems. Okay, so yeah, so some more AI stuff. There's lots of AI stuff. This is the last one here. Throughout August, AI content supported level design by creating new worker behavior. This enables the designs to apply traits to various AI archetypes, refining which usables they use, such as sitting, leaning, inspecting, and cooking. The team modified various usables to utilize the first reaction systems, which allows NPCs to break out of usables during animations. For example, if an NPC is typing on a console and hears a gunshot or sees enemy, they'll stop typing and react appropriately. This was completed for the standing and sitting console, leans, seats, chairs, railings, search spots, attack spots, and more. They're currently working with the engine animation teams to improve the visuals. Previz began on 2 new products for future delivery, the dealer behavior and Pyro location usables. The dealer is a mobile vendor that players can buy from and sell to. This NPC stores one-handed items on their person, though if a player wants a two-handed item, they're guided to the dealer's shop nearby. We get roving merchants in Star Citizen. Interesting. The track view previz went through the second iteration with the team currently building consensus of all of the different design teams. AI content identifying several usables to help sell Pyro's theme of sickness, greed, and poverty. The second previs pass was completed, which will be presented to the directors before the new usables begin production. The team also continued to develop hospital respawn locations for Alpha 315 and the subsequent vendor rollouts to various locations around Stanton. We're getting some fucking like door-to-door salesman shit. Some Fallout level traveling merchants. That's awesome. We're getting straight up this. Oh, damn it. We'll try it one more time.
Cash as wares, if you have coin.
What are you buying? Yes. Isn't a Squadron 42 system connected to Nyx 2? Yes, Odin is connected to Nyx. Hey, Ola, how you doing? Aloha. How you doing, buddy? Zero here. Oh, it's zero. Not zero state, right? How's it going, Aloha? Or zero, I should say. Kraken privateer owners are going to be needed for the merchants. So here's my theory. We have some unannounced ships going out, and now suddenly there's a shop that's a mobile shop with that's connected to a ship. It's coming in 315. We getting the taco truck, boys. We getting the roach coach. We getting the mobile store, the food truck of space. I think that's my theory. That's my theory. That's got to be it. We're getting roving merchants without a merchant vessel like the merchantman or the privateer, and they're supposed to. That's 100% going to be a fucking smaller medium ship. That's a roach coach. A spark that will light the fire. Yes. Time until Astropub. Almost there. Yes. Yes, please. It's something I've been talking about. I think I've talked about this on the Inforunners, and I think it's been pitched back and forth. That I think even Execute mentioned this as well, which is that it makes sense. If you have a mechanic you're building for a very big ship like the Kraken and a slightly smaller but large ship like the Merchantman, you're going to want it in a large, medium, and small variety as well. It can't be just for the big guys. So at least having a medium to large ship the size of a Cutlass or a Connie would make sense. And people unironically want a taco truck. I unironically want a taco truck. That sounds like a fucking amazing idea. Space food truck operator as a profession. That's so fucking out of there. I love it. Yeah, we're gonna go to Lorville first. Make sure you hit the lunch crowd big at Lorville. Then we're gonna make our way to Area 18. We know a spot where they always get out at this time. They love the pizza. We're gonna get there. And then we're going to wrap it up by parking outside of one of the rinky-dink locations with the I'm trying to think of the rinky-dink apartment complexes, because they really like their noodles there in Orson. Yeah, the Fifth Element had the roaming Chinese food truck. Yeah, fantastic addition. There was that Crusader food truck they designed. Yeah. Make it easier to get it. Exactly. Well, they even mentioned that they're working on multiple animations and multiple designs for multiple food. I think it was in relationship to Pyro, but I think that's also just in general. It'd have to be designed by Drake. It would make sense to do a mobile food stand that's the Drake Cutlass Purple. Because the Drake Cutlass Purple could be a mobile store. But it could also be a bar. I could see that 100% happening. But I'd love to see pizza. They have pizza in the game. They put pizza in the freaking cargo decks of the wrecked Starfarers for the Ninetales lockdown. For parties. I unironically want a Cutlass Purple, and it makes sense. Let me pull that up again. Okay, I'm going to pull this up, and we're going to watch it together so everyone can get the joke if you haven't seen it before. Because I'm constantly finding out there's plenty of people who don't know about these sorts of things.
I've had a lot of fun at Drake's expense over the years, but when you get down to it, there's no denying their power and versatility. Take the venerable Cutlass. With the red and blue variants, they continue to iterate on the classic chassis. Now we're here with reps from Drake, and I have the next Cutlass variant, the Cutlass Purple. You know, for parties. Sound system, cocktail bar, glitter ball.
Yes. Yes. Yes, Jax. I'll take 100. Thank you for that $5 Canadian. They already designed the Crusader food truck. They designed the Crusader food truck with on a live stream, right? I'd love to see some like alien design stuff. They've talked about the fermentation, like essentially the rotting food of the Xi'an, and then there's the spicy food of the Banu. It'd be interesting to see that. Glitter ball for all provides extra protection versus beam weapons. It's It's actually not a sigh of the cameraman. It's a sigh of one of the Drake representatives. I just love like the two Drake representatives. The dude is just kind of like, and the woman is sitting there going like, "Are you serious? Is this a joke?" Mercury Lunchbringer. No, if you did a merchant vessel, it would have to be called the Bacchus. The Mercury would be called the Crusader Star Trader, and it would be called the Bacchus, the Crusader Bacchus Star Trader. Why would it be Bacchus? The god of revelry and wine is named Bacchus, and Star Trader already fits in the themes. Dionysus is Bacchus. They're the same thing. The difference is that Bacchus is the Roman version of Dionysus. Dionysus is the Greek god. The same one. Yeah, I guess it would be Dionysus. The Crusader Dionysus Star Trader. I think Bacchus sounds better though, just as a name, because it sounds hard. It sounds like a harsh thing to say, and like it sounds much more traitory. The only thing I can think of is maybe like the Roman god of luck, or the Greek god of luck, but I think that's Apollo, and so you already had an Apollo. Tyche, maybe. Hermes would make sense too, because Hermes is the god of shopkeepers and merchants. So yeah, the Crusader Hermes Star Trader. Yeah, that would actually work. No, but they already have Mercury, which is Hermes. That'd be really weird, because yeah, they flip back and forth with the Roman and the Greek, because they have Mercury, which is the Roman god, which for Hermes. Then they have the Ares, which is the Greek god of war. It's Mars in Rome. And then you've got the Hercules, who's Heracles in Rome, but is Hercules in Greek. No one likes to call him Heracles. There are people who still call him Heracles. I mean, he's still mentioned as Heracles by a lot of Latin poets. Not today, but like in around the Romans and post-Roman era. Thank you, UB. Thanks for hanging out there, Legion. The Hermes variant of the Mercury. I could see it working, but they mix a ton of myths together. looking through some of this stuff real quickly. I'm looking at Hermes' children. It could be Ceres. You could do the Crusader Ceres, Star Trader, because Ceres was the goddess of the hearth and home. Amun-Ra or Isis. How about an 890 exploration version, exploration module? I mean, yeah, I could see that. What's very interesting is Proto-Indo-European religions. They're a common root for Norse, Greek, and Celtics and Eastern. Yeah, like Odin, like Woden, being the like progenitor god of or Wotan, being the progenitor god of like Zeus and Odin and lots of other like stuff. I guess you could do Athena. The Athena is more like knowledge. That would be more of a messenger ship than anything, or like an info runner. Well, I guess that's kind of the Mercury already. They also do over heroes. So I'm trying to think if there's any Greek heroes who are also merchants. Athens was a merchant powerhouse for sure. Hephaestus was for a salvage ship, yeah. Demeter, yeah. There we go. Presenting the Crusader Industries Iacus Star Trader. That sounds good. That sounds nice. That sounds great. Great. It's Iacus is one of Ceres' sons. Actually, not even sons. He's supposedly son of Demeter, apparently her husband, or the son of Persephone, identical with Dionysus Zagreus, or son of Dionysus. So he's either the husband or son of Demeter, aka Ceres, or he's the son of Persephone, the daughter of Demeter. So, yeah, I wouldn't see Odysseus. Odysseus is much more of an explorer ship if they're going to do Odysseus. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes sense to do Egyptian stuff, but the Egyptians, I mean, like, we're talking about a company that has almost exclusively used Greco-Roman gods and symbols, like individuals. Paul, in another episode, you mentioned a ferry for hauling smaller ships. What about a module for the hull series with landing pads? I could see something like that. CIG doesn't tend to module their way out of a ship problem. You can see that with the original Redeemer was supposed to be a drop ship, and then as it developed, they kind of swapped out the drop ship because it was taking too long to develop it. So they swapped that out for the hoplite variant. And so they tried to variant their way out, and then they just gave up on the variant and built the Valkyrie. So I don't see CIG varianting their way out of the problem before. And for those of you who don't know, one of the biggest problems I've seen is that, by the way, for those who don't know, this is my referral code. So if you are interested in getting Star Citizen and you would like to, get 5,000 extra cash, and you like me, use the code and you can get 5,000 extra for when you purchase the game. It's don't have to. It's just I have that up there now for that sort of reason. Roman commerce god, Aquitas. Maybe that sounds a little hard to say though. You said the meter. Now I hope is that we can drop in the battle like the battle zones like the meter of Titanfall. Nails, baby. But I also think that you'll be able to drop Titans from orbit. I do think you can go prepare for Titanfall and drop your Titan inside your Titan onto the planet. But anyways, what I was mentioning is there's a problem that CIG has, and I've mentioned this before, where when the game gets bigger, when we start seeing the server meshing implemented and we see multiple systems in there, one of the major problems that CIG is going to encounter is getting places is complicated. It takes a long time and it requires a lot of effort. And even with the right tools and enough people, it still takes multiple ships to do everything you want. And none of it is very effective. If you want to take ships, you need a carrier. Carriers are not really designed to haul people, though, and or the beds and supplies needed to keep people alive for long voyages that you're hauling them. There's no real beds outside of the crew for carrier ships, for instance. And cargo vessels, you can carry ships with them, but you also can't make them ready to move. You have to disassemble a crate, and then you have to move them out of the crate, often pull parts back off, reassemble the parts of the ships themselves, because of like the whole D's and the whole C's can carry smaller ships than that, but you can't carry the bigger ships. Even the medium ships will have a hard time going there. So I think the stopgap will be people need to get from point A to point B, carrying their ships and their stuff and themselves over long distances, and organizations are going to need those as essentially hubs of movement. And whenever I mention this idea of kind of like a drive-on, drive-off ferry that you would see in places like the Northeast United States and places like Oceania, and a lot of places where you're separated by large like islands and lands are separated by large distances. So being able to drive a boat onto a ferry and then take that ferry to a location and drive off gives you more flexibility. That kind of concept where you hold people, but also cars. In this case, you hold people, but also smaller ships. And as I mentioned this, every Marine under the sun began to scream at me about looking at helicopter aircraft carriers, which in the U.S. Marine Corps, and I think many Marine Corps around the globe, are often used as not just places to hold your helicopters, but places to hold entire Marine units to essentially as a mobile base of operations on the seas, including space for fixing up vehicles, maintaining vehicles, and carrying large, heavy armored vehicles into a combat zone, or amphibious vehicles into a combat zone. And so I started saying, well, you could just combine those two. You build this, Anvil or Aegis designed, essentially support carrier, and then it gets phased into civilian use and becomes a civilian ferry, because it essentially does the same thing. You can store large amounts of cargo or vehicles and people who aren't just the crew members, with a lot of food, and you can also carry ships with them. So this is a little bit different from, say, like a Starliner, where you're just moving from place to place. You're just picking up everything. This is kind of like a ferry/colony ship. Yes, I know about the Jupiter. The problem about the Jupiter is that CIG has been adamant that they're not making the Jupiter. They have no interest in making the Jupiter. And I don't think it will be the Jupiter. I think if they make it, it'll either be an Anvil ship or it'll be Crusader, but it won't be the Jupiter. It will be some sort of successor to the Jupiter. And it also doesn't make a lot of sense because you already have the Starliner. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense for Crusader to own the 2 transport ships that transport vehicles and people, and no other ship company has even tried that. Anvil makes more sense because Anvil already does transport capabilities. In the lore, Anvil in the early 29th century was trying to move away from pure combat ships to more support vehicles, and they actually predicted the need for transport ships before the UEE started calling for transport ships. That's why they built the Valkyrie. They built the Valkyrie predicting that the UEE was going to need something like the Valkyrie. So by the time the UEE was calling for the Valkyrie, Anvil already had a working prototype that they could show the UEE within days of them making this bid. So it would make sense that that Anvil would, with its same kind of research, would have also built something similar to replace, say, an aging Aegis version. And since Anvil also builds military ships subsequently with civilian ships, they usually have a military and a civilian version being built side by side. It would also make sense that this would end up as a civilian market as a transport. Yeah, the Cronus or the Atlas would work well for something like that as well. Yeah. The Bacchus bring the party to the party. Exactly. Just talking about another new manufacturer, a distant human alien race relating to the ancient Egyptian connection. Oh yeah, possibly. That'd be interesting. I mean, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some Egyptian elements end up in the Hadesian race, which is the long dead race, because that would also meet thematically with this being kind of the kind of end of the Roman Empire, having something like the Hadesians be this ancient lost race that it's got myth surrounding them, but no one really knows what happened to them. That's not really what Egypt was like, but like there's still a lot of mysteries around Egypt during the time of the Romans, even the late Roman Empire, because, you know, by the time the Roman Empire was even at its peak, the Egyptian empires, you know, like the Sphinx was thousands of years old. The Valk was a far smaller gamble than building an R&D capital ship on an informed guess. That's true, Karadeth, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had designed something similar to carry the Valkyrie, because that would be the next step. You have a dropship, you need something that can carry the dropship, and you need something that you can load onto the dropship. You need like a way to load stuff onto that dropship from this ship that is acting as a mobile forward base. And who better to do that than Anvil? And I can easily see the lore being after they pitched the Valkyrie to the UEE and they purchased it, they instantly said, "Oh, by the way, we're working on this carrier for the Valkyrie," and I already know the name of it. You'd call it the Anvil Pegasus. Well, no, you can't do the Pegasus because the Pegasus is already taken. You'd call it the Anvil Odin. Or the Freya, the Freya. I can't say it right. The something that would carry Valkyries into battle. An internal carrier large enough to carry the Valk, Frigg, yeah, something like that. So the interior carrier large enough to carry the Valk would be gargantuan. I don't think it would be that big. Having enough for 1 or 2 Valkyries wouldn't be that bad. Essentially having 1 bay for a Valkyrie and having a flat top or something like that to carry maybe 2 more on top. That would be only the size of 2 Valkyries put together plus a Valkyrie in the back, which is big, but that's no bigger than a Perseus. it wouldn't be as big. Let me put it this way: the Carrack is fucking massive compared to that size that I just described. The Carrack is fucking huge. And again, Anvil is experienced with making non-military ships for the non-combat ships for the military. The Carrack being a great example. The Valhalla, yeah. The Anvil Thor probably doesn't have the right ring to it, yeah. Argo Supercargo. The Leviathan. Yeah. So when they add base building, how many Castle Blacks and Mother bases do you reckon we'll see? A lot. I'm trying to think of historical. I'll probably just call mine. If I ever build something, I'd call it. Gagarin Ranch. Even a terrapin is named after the first first early space probe. Distribution there. Yeah. Doesn't the Javelin have a hangar that can fit a Valkyrie? Yes, but a Javelin is also fucking massive. I don't know if it could fit a Valkyrie. It at one point could fit a Vanguard. Anvil Sefner? Maybe. They may also just go with something similar because they don't always do pure mythological names, because you've got the Hornet, you've got the Arrow, you've got the Terrapin, which is also turtle. You've got trying to think of the other ones. The Hawk, you've got the Valkyrie, you've got the Carrack. So they're usually named after mostly normal things. The Valkyrie being the kind of weird the Gladiator, you know, the Carrack is kind of, or the Valkyrie is kind of the offset. So I could also see it being the the Heron, you know, or the Swallow, something like that. The Walrus, yeah. The Hurricane, yeah. Annual names aren't but pre-existing famous ships names. I don't know if there's, yeah, like they use like historical reference names mostly, because the Hornet, you know, F/A-18 Hornet, the Hurricane, famous British fighter. Naming yours, Outer Heaven. There we go. Anvil Kangaroo, the Anvil Basilisk. They've said they won't go much bigger than Javelin for players to control in Star Citizen, but I like to imagine Chris Roberts and his dev team are going to spook the shit out of players by popping up at one point. I don't believe their point is that they don't want to have players buy anything bigger than a Javelin or be able to purchase it in verse. They've said they like the idea of having players being able to fix up a Bengal, but that's huge and a massive endeavor. So they're not really interested in anything bigger than Javelin for reasons, good reasons. The Anvil Roberts. I actually have the perfect name for it, and it's a great reference. You call it the Anvil Thunderchild. Anyone get that reference? The Thunderchild? Be a hell of a name for a forward operation base. It's not just a Star Trek reference. The Star Trek reference is a reference to another reference. War of the Worlds. Yeah. It's the battleship, the British battleship that fights the Martians in War of the Worlds and loses. HMS Thunderchild, yeah. That'd be a great little name for a ship. You know, the Anvil Thunderchild. All right, y'all. I think that's it for me. We've gone over everything. We did some discussions, that kind of stuff. I feel like Argo would sell farm equipment when we get homesteads. Oh, yeah, for sure. Farm equipment as well as Grey Cat would probably do that as well. Or Thunder Thighs. I mean, that would be the nickname for it. Yeah, if you're enjoying this, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below with your own comments, discussions, thoughts on my thoughts, so on and so forth. Always love to see that. We'll kind of get back to you. If you're watching this on Twitch, make sure that you follow. If you enjoy this, you can subscribe. It's actually September, so you can do that. Or you can support us on Patreon. I've got to rethink my Patreon rewards and such like that, and kind of rebrand the Patreon a little bit, just to be my Patreon, not just Galactic Historian, though Galactic Historian its main focus. So yeah, we have multiple ways you can support us. You can follow me on Twitter for more updates. And of course, I didn't even mention this, but we're giving away an Anvil Hawk all of this month, ! September, to get the information for that. And for those of you on YouTube, I'm just going to pop that into the YouTube chat, and in the comments, the top comment, I'll have the September thing posted. Like an LHD, yeah. Yeah, that's essentially what I'm mentioning there, Roy, is an LHD or an MEU. Before you go, Paul, please show us which mechanical arm we'll be going with from where we saw today. Oh, yeah. Let's do that real quickly. Let's show that, because that's the other big thing that was shown off, was the prosthetics, which is, I think they're going with what I was hoping for, where if you get a certain injury to a certain, like to a limb, then you have to have a mechanical prosthetics to replace it. I like this one right here. This one's pretty nice. It looks more like a glove, though. I don't like this, so that does look funky as shit. I kind of like the orange one because it's a little bit more robotic. It fits also in. It's also only got 3 arms, but I don't like, this is cool, but this is giving me some heavy, like, Winter Soldier vibes, you know, vibranium arm. And this is a little bit too Bumblebee for me. This is a little too, like, Tron, which is cool, but, you know. I just want something that's a little bit more unique. I might go with this. It looks very classy. Or something like this. A little bit more utilitarian, but still got some junk to it. I don't like the super ratchet looking ones. They look cool, but, you know. That's like you lose your arm in the pyro system. And I also prefer the sleeved look. The sleeved looks look a lot better. Unfortunately, I know a lot of veterans who do not have limbs, and I'll guarantee you they wear sleeves. Like, that looks a lot better right there. This one right here looks a lot better than like this. It just looks more natural with the sleeves too, and with the legs. I like this one. The semi-transparent looks pretty cool. That looks just jacked, but some dark some Black Templars up in here, Maki. Yes, that'd be cool. So like that style right there is pretty cool. All right. I'll have to go for the inlaid walnut brand. Okay, I got to keep it classy up in here. It works well with a suit. Limb loss confirmed. Yes, limb loss confirmed. I don't know if you're going to be able to jib someone's limb, but my guess is the way that the gameplay will function is if you get a tier 1 injury, then you will lose the limb. So if you get an injury that's so significant that it is essentially killed the limb, then you have to get it amputated and replaced. I still think that makes a good idea. It makes good sense to offer pre-grown VAT limbs for players, but I also think it makes sense for them to either be expensive or be super cheap, depending on where you need to, and have cybernetic augmentations be a good replacement because of, improvements or whatever. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. And make individual character have more value. Or, you could go under the knife and get all of your limbs replaced with cybernetics, just for cool factor. Yes, confirmed blind jumps are coming back. Now they're completely retooling the QT system so that it's the same as blind jumps, how they worked, but it's not blind jumps. It basically allows you to jump in a location. So, hey, 2K Intellect, exclamation point Twitter, exclamation point YouTube. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, we do stream on Twitch Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Thursday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And Saturday and Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can come join us live for this, Captain's Table, for our gameplay streams, for our tabletop RPG streams. I do some smuggling stuff every so often, group gameplay, the works. And sometimes we do other games, like we'll definitely be doing New World when that comes out. We'll also be I might be doing some No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky has, that latest update looks fucking cool. I'm not going to lie. That latest update looks real fucking cool with the Frontiers update. So, what's my YouTube again? YouTube.com/theastropub. Twitter.com/theastropub. Twitch.tv/theastropub. The Astropub is available wherever fine content is available. All right. Now I really got to go. It's been 3 hours. All right. Like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. And remember, Ex Historia ad Astra.